This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A much-needed soaking is offering some help today as wildfires continue to rage around the province. But despite the much-needed precipitation, the fight is far from over. The eastern part of the province is still burning, and evacuations are still in place in many areas as crews do their best to try to get the upper hand. Rosanna Hempel was in Lac du Bonny today. And Rosanna, how has the weather impacted the firefight there?
Yeah, Brittany, I'm here in the RM of Lac du Bonny, where, as you can see, the community and firefighters are getting some of that desperately needed rain. Now, behind me is that checkpoint into Wendigo Road, where some residents have been allowed back to their homes. Throughout the day, we've seen hydro crews driving in and out. We've seen some residents check in with security to see if their name is on the list. Earlier today, we spoke with a man who was on his way out who had just seen the extent of the damage. This is what Ronald Runzer came back to after wildfire swept through his neighborhood. His equipment and sheds burned to the ground, but his house singed but standing.
I consider myself lucky that I still got my house standing there. That's about something else. A lot of my neighbors, two of my neighbors died, and a few of them lost their everything.
Runzer is one of about 50 households in the South Wendigo Road area allowed back home Thursday night. Just 3 days ago, he was at home in his shop where he first noticed the smoke.
You could hear it coming in the smoke, and I figured, well, I started moving some of my machinery out in the field, and and you could feel the heat already from the fire, must have been at least 200 yards away. And then the police came in and told me I better leave.
And this is what he escaped.
The tender, dry conditions.
Friday was also Lauren Schinkel's first look past the checkpoint, where a couple died and 28 cottages and homes were lost.
It's hard to really describe where you see nothing. It's just trees and smoldering piles of, still burning. And then you'll come across where a residence, and it's like everything evaporated because the heat was so intense.
The Reeve of the RM of Lac du Bonny says Friday's rain has helped. The wildfire is contained, but still out of control. Schinkel says evacuees in the eastern region of the municipality can't go home yet.
We are worried about lives and property, and until we get the go-ahead from Manitoba Wildfire Services, we can't open those areas. And so at the end of the day, we ask for some patience and understanding.
Kathy Austin counts herself lucky to have a home to return to.
We were out doing a rain dance on the deck last night, so we're like, yay, the old happy dance.
Now, the Reeve says they'll do a full review into the community's response into what happened with the wildfire. For now, they're offering counseling and praying for even more rain. Brittany.
All right, thank you. That's CBC's Rosanna Hempel this evening. Now, beyond the smoke in Lac du Bonny is the cloud of grief many are feeling. There's been an outpouring of support for the family of the two people who lost their lives in the fire. Sue and Richard Noel were killed as the fast-moving fire trapped them in their family home. Friends say Sue and her husband were instrumental in helping get a community resource centre up and running. The centre's executive director says the deaths have created a profound loss in the community. Karen Coast says Sue worked many unpaid hours stressing over how to make the place successful. The regulars looked forward to her cooking and desserts. She cultivated friendships and cared deeply for everyone she met. Sue was sensitive to a fault. For others nearby, it was a harrowing escape as the fire drew closer. Gay Kirby and her family got out in the nick of time. Her friends and family's homes have been destroyed. Kirby and her husband were forced to take shelter at a nearby beach before helicopters were able to fly them out of the area. She says without it, they would have been trapped.
We went down to the end of the causeway, which is the road that leads to the peninsula. When we turned left, it was it was just like a wall of fire. And my husband was driving. I was screaming, back up. And when he backed up and looked in the mirror, it was just totally black. The smoke was just black, and there was fire in front and beside us, and it was pretty terrifying.
Communication is being called into question. Some people say they never got a message telling them it was time to go. Others say it came too late. Now some are calling for improvements to the way people are told about those evacuations. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
The flames on Tuesday morning quickly consumed forested areas near Lac du Bonny. Municipal officials had to act fast to evacuate cottages and homes.
I was expecting actually someone to come to the door and say it was time to leave, or the phone to go off through the emergency notification service that we've subscribed to.
That service is called Lac du Bonny Connect. People can sign up to receive local emergency notifications.
I would like to see that they improve that service so that everybody gets a notification as they need to.
The fire was first reported just after 9 Tuesday morning, according to Reeve Lauren Schinkel. He says a lack of cell service may have prevented some from getting the message. At 10 o'clock at night, Glenda Gould and her husband still hadn't received an evacuation notice. Others had been told to leave almost 10 hours earlier.
We ended up issuing the first evacuation order at 12:16, and it was a fluid situation.
The RM also sent out alerts through social media, and officials went door to door in some cases.
There's going to be an evaluation and a critique after this whole incident is finally dealt with. And if we can do things better, certainly that's going to be put in motion.
Schinkel says RMs are responsible to give evacuation orders based on consultations with the province. The inferno destroyed 28 structures and claimed the lives of Sue and Rich Noel, who got trapped in the evacuation zone.
They take this dire situation extremely seriously, and they do the best job they can.
This emergency consultant says knowing how to get people out of danger is one thing, but Shelley Napier says practicing evacuation plans is also key.
Every time we go through something like this, it's a lesson that we need to stay prepared.
The Premier says using the province's emergency alert system was discussed, but he says it was determined to use other systems already practiced and in place. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, in and around Nopaming Provincial Park, a massive 100,000-hectare wildfire is burning out of control. The CBC's Alana Cole has been talking with people who live or own property in that area.
Anxious, overwhelmed, worried. Those are just some of the words Rina Habatka is using to describe how she's feeling as the wildfire remains out of control in and around Nopaming Provincial Park. Now, she lives in Calgary but has a cottage in the park on Beresford Lake. It's an area she's been going to with her family her whole life.
Wildfire has been something that we've all experienced in Canada in the past however many years, just like hearing people losing their homes and fleeing. And of course, it sounds tragic, but until it's like something you're experiencing, it's so hard to it's unexplainable.
These are some older photos of the area Habatka shared, taken before the fire. She says it's hard to get official information, but believes at this point her cabin is okay. She's not sure that's the case for other family and close friends in the area. As of yesterday, the province estimated the fire in and around Nopaming to be over 100,000 hectares. Bissett is near Nopaming Provincial Park. Now, that's where Crystal Lauren lives. She says she can see and smell the smoke and says there could be danger for the community if the wind changes.
This is where I live. I work at the mine in town. So, this is also, it's everything, right? So if you lose it all, it's no different than everybody in Lac du Bonny currently. But we're just on edge. Everybody's kind of aware. People have even, have sprinklers and stuff set up on their house should these winds change.
She says she knows of a lot of community members who've been watching the fire. She says some have trailers loaded up and ready to go if they need to leave. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, time for a first check on your forecast. And yes, as expected, a good soaking rain across parts of southern Manitoba as we've gotten throughout the day, really even into the west the past 48 hours. As you can see, that has continued as we got through the afternoon hours. Do expect it to continue into the evening, but I did want to zoom in here on what's happening close to Lac du Bonny and to that fire near Bird River in Nopaming Provincial Park. Yes, getting some rain today, probably not as heavy as we all would have liked. As of about 5 o'clock this afternoon, about 9 millimeters in the last 48 hours in Lac du Bonny, and less the further east you've gone into northwestern Ontario. Places like Kenora, as of earlier in the day, only getting about 1 millimeter to 5 millimeters of rain in the past 24 hours. So certainly hoping for a little bit more rain as we get through the night. I do have some of that in the forecast through the evening hours at least. We'll talk rainfall totals, particularly for the west, when I come back. There's more ahead after this.
effective. CBC's Zubina Ahmed reports.
The Firearms Investigative Analysis section examines shell casings from crime scenes in an effort to connect them to gun crimes. Until about 5 years ago, Winnipeg police would have to send casings to the RCMP's National Forensic Lab. But this can now be done in the province with their own gun lab. Deputy Police Chief Cam Muckett says more than a third of homicides in Manitoba are related to gun violence.
In 2024, the Winnipeg Police Service attended over 2,600 calls for service that were related to firearms. And we investigated around 500 criminal offenses relating to firearms. Also in 2024, the Winnipeg Police Service seized 1,441 firearms, 713 of which were what we call crime guns.
Muckett says Winnipeg police have access to a national database known as CBC, where digital images are collected and stored. Using CBC, bullets and shell casings can be compared to unsolved crimes across the country and links can be made. Muckett says this reduces the wait for results from a year to less than 3 days now.
As a result, since the inception of this program in 2020, the Winnipeg Police Service has developed over 200 CBC leads, linking incidents both locally and across Canada.
Justice Minister Matt Wiebe says the province is providing annual funding of $3.2 million for the initiative. That's a slight increase from the $3.1 million committed by the previous PC government 2 years ago.
Today's announcement is the first step in creating a Manitoba crime gun lab with the capacity to handle all firearms investigations, including complex ballistics testing that's required for court.
Wiebe says the lab will also be available for use by the Brandon and Manitoba First Nations police services. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Anyone who wants to know who is trying to influence decision makers at City Hall has a tool at their disposal. The city launched this lobbyist registry to track who is meeting with council members and staff. But there's a catch. It's voluntary. And lately, it seems fewer people are choosing to register.
Lobbying is an important and legitimate aspect of public life.
That's Integrity Commissioner Sherry Walsh talking to the Governance Committee yesterday. She says the trend of lobbyist registrations at City Hall is decreasing. There were 16 entries when the registry launched in 2017. That rose to 26 the next year. But since then, the number has fallen sharply, with just 5 registrations in each of the past 2 years. The registry includes people representing business and financial interests, ride-sharing and short-term rental companies, for example. Also, advocacy groups with paid staff, like Bike Winnipeg.
I always encourage council members and members of the public service to remind individuals with whom they're meeting outside of a public process to register. It's not a bad thing, and that kind of transparency is very much to be promoted.
When council created the registry, it lacked the power to make it mandatory. Mayor Scott Gillingham says the Governance Committee will look into the issue.
Whenever you make something mandatory, you've got to put the tools in place to then kind of police it and enforce it, which becomes a whole other thing.
The city would have to ask the province to change legislation, granting it the power to enforce the lobbyist registry. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The province is investing $1 million to improve access to veterinary care in remote and northern communities. The money will bring spade and neutering clinics and other healthcare programs to more communities. Majority of the money will go to the Winnipeg Humane Society, including its mobile care program. $400,000 over 4 years will go into creating a pilot project.
Right now we have a long list of communities waiting for us to host a spay and neuter clinic, dog food, education resources, and we can't meet that demand with our current funding. So this will just mean that we can reach way more people, pets.
The province is also creating 2 new positions in Thompson and Swan River to support animal welfare. The use of motorized watercraft will be restricted on Clear Lake. This comes as Parks Canada continues its attempt to reduce the spread of zebra mussels. It means only motorized watercraft will be permitted on Clear Lake and surrounding water bodies. Adult zebra mussels were first found in the area in November 2023. An effort to contain them within an underwater curtain did not succeed. Last fall, hundreds of juvenile zebra mussels were found attached to docks and structures in the area. Spraying for tree pest caterpillars will begin Tuesday night. Crews will target Crescent Park, Point Road, Wildwood, and Rockwood. They expect to spray on weekdays in the next 4 weeks. If weather permits, residents can apply for a buffer zone, which prevents the spraying within 30 meters of their property. Riley's back in now. Riley, I know we got a soaking here in the city, but some much needed rain in some other parts of the province that fire crews are really hoping for more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was really happy leaving work last night in the pouring rain. That's how much we needed the rain. That's how badly parts of our province had needed the rain. So that's where I'm going to start, is with some of the rainfall totals that we've seen over the last, since midnight on Thursday. And I'm going to back us up just a moment here and say that I know there are various sources out there. These are just from the Manitoba Agriculture Stations. Cocoa spotters have varying numbers, as does Environment Canada. And some of these numbers, particularly in the west, don't include what fell in the Brandon area on Wednesday, for example. So just for simplicity's sake, we're taking from midnight on Thursday all the way till 5 o'clock this afternoon. 9 millimeters in Lac du Bonny, 13 to 15 millimeters in parts of southeastern Manitoba. I know around Woodridge, they did see about 15 millimeters of rain overnight last night. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of that variation. But some of these numbers pretty impressive. Elm Creek at 65 millimeters, Winkler about 60 millimeters, and around 50 in the last 36 hours or so into the southwest corner of the province. So needless to say, west of the city, it's been a pretty wet couple of days. We could use some more rain, though, into that southeastern corner of the province. Maybe a little bit more coming tonight. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I just wanted to show you how vast and how expansive this area of low pressure is. You can see this rotating down around Minneapolis and sort of the upper fingers of that into Manitoba as this continues to spin off over the Great Lakes and into parts of northern Ontario. So that's just how vast some of that rainfall is and how far-reaching it has been as we've gotten through the last couple of days. So as I mentioned, as we get through the night, a couple of shots at some good rain coming yet for places like Lac du Bonny into the Whiteshell and into northwestern Ontario. Not the really good soaking rain, but we'll take what we can get as we get into the day on Saturday. We'll start to see things tapering off, mainly cloudy to start as we get into Saturday, but once we get into the afternoon, that's when we start to see some clouds breaking. We'll get some peaks of sunshine and some clearing in earnest as we get into Sunday and Monday. Temperatures still below seasonal, but warming up slightly as we get into the next couple of days, and maybe a couple more showers coming as we get into Monday into southwestern Manitoba. The other story has been the winds, very strong today. We'll start to see those lightening up as we get through the overnight hours into Saturday. But still a breezy one tomorrow out of the north, gusting to 40 at times through the Red River Valley in eastern Manitoba. But you'll see as we get into Sunday here, we start to see those winds shifting around again, but backing off to more like 10 gusting 20 by the time we get into Sunday and Monday. So that will also help that firefight, is that decrease in winds as we get through the next little bit here. Cold morning tomorrow, temperatures around freezing or even just below in some cases for parts of the province. Up to 6 tomorrow afternoon in Winnipeg, 14 for Sunday, and then we're up to 17s and 18s, still below seasonal to start next week.
All right, thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Here's a look at a wet exchange as we head to break. We have more to come straight after this. Stay with us. Now, some of the most dramatic video we've seen of these wildfires comes from just across the border near Ingolf, Ontario. It's an area that many Manitobans have homes and cottages in, including former Winnipegger Jim Hopper. The cabin his parents built on Long Pine Lake went up in flames earlier this week. That wildfire has spread just over the border into the White Shell here in Manitoba. Despite his cottage being sold just over a decade ago, he says watching it go up in flames was gut-wrenching. He spoke with Marcy Marcusa.
It appears to me that the camp next door, they were friends of ours, and they had since sold as well, but their camp was completely gone, and it looked by the direction of the wind that it probably ignited the A-frame. So, but it hadn't touched some of the pines that my mother planted about 50 years ago.
Wow. And what was it like for you to watch this video?
Well, I think first of all, I felt very, very sad for the people who own it now. And that was my first thought, and it sat with me for a while because I don't know how they improved it or what they did, but my goodness, if we had only owned it that long and lost it, it would be just so devastating. But then I also was maybe not quite as extreme as my son in terms what his comments were, but it was, as I watched it, it was like an old friend, you know, and it was like my younger brother's still alive, but I lost my brother and my mother and my dad, and so this was sort of a closure, I guess, and it was gone. So, but I do remember neighbors would joke that if a fire ever comes through, this thing will go up like a torch, and it did, and it's very, very sad.
Now, as we said earlier, rain is helping a growing fire in the southeasternmost part of the province. That wildfire is in the RM of Piney, and it is now under 9,000 hectares in size. The RM says the Woodridge area received around 15 millimeters of rain in the last 24 hours. It's bringing some relief to crews still fighting. The fire is still out of control, and evacuation orders remain in place. The Wildfire Service has 6 dozers and 2 helicopters, along with fire crews working out there. A stunning decision at the sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior Hockey team members. They've all pleaded not guilty in connection with an incident involving a woman known as EM after their 2018 championship. Now the judge has told the jury they are no longer required. As Ali Shiasin explains, the trial will continue without them.
1 sex assault trial, 2 juries discharged. This morning, Justice Maria Caracia decided that this trial will proceed in front of her alone, out of concern about jury prejudice. This after a note was passed to her written by a juror. It specifically called out 2 defense attorneys, Dan Brown and Hilary Dudding. They both represent Alex Formanton, saying they felt they were whispering and laughing at the jurors, quote, as if they were discussing our appearance. This is unprofessional and unacceptable, the note said. Justice Caracia decided the only way forward is judge alone. In a statement, defense lawyer Dan Brown and Hilary Dudding said this was an unfortunate misrepresentation of just 2 attorneys talking amongst themselves. Quote, no defense counsel would risk alienating a juror, and nothing could be further from the truth in this instance. And the very idea of counsel making light of a juror is illogical and runs directly counter to our purpose and function. The judge said she didn't observe any of this behavior in the courtroom and would have stepped in if she had, but still it was enough for her to decide to completely discharge the jury, and it's not the first time. A mistrial was declared in April when a juror complained about an alleged interaction also with Dudding at lunch. The juror claimed that the defense lawyer had said to them that they had been nodding a lot during the Crown's opening statement. Dudding denied this, but the defense argued that the jury was already thinking negatively of them. and the mistrial was declared. Flash forward to today, and a second jury.
Hudson's Bay may be done as a department store, but those famous multicolored stripes may be coming soon to a Canadian Tire store near you. Georgie Smythe has more on the $30 million deal to preserve at least some of the iconic Canadian brand.
The iconic HBC stripes could now live on through Canadian Tire, with the company announcing an agreement to buy the Bay's logos, designs, coat of arms and trademarks for $30 million.
There's quite a bit of treasure there that can be used in the future by Canadian Tire.
In a statement, President and CEO of Canadian Tire said this choice feels as strategic as it feels patriotic. It builds on our generational connection to life in Canada, and it fits our new True North strategy. The deal comes after Canada's oldest company filed for creditor protection in March. It had been looking for buyers for parts of its business as it liquidated all 80 of its stores across the country. The Bay's CEO said, "We are grateful that the HBC brand has found a home with another heritage retailer that encapsulates the uniquely authentic Canadian experience." Canadian Tire is also bidding on some of the Bay's old locations, but it's unlikely to resurrect the retailer, says this analyst.
I think what they're going to do if they're bidding on leases, it's probably going to be for part of the lease, the Bay has, and they would probably look at it for a Canadian Tire store, a Sport Chek or a Mark's. I can't see them doing anything with the Bay in its former version of itself. This is going to be reincarnated differently.
Deep discounts brought many Canadians back into stores, and some shoppers there were happy to hear the news.
The Hudson Bay stays alive, that's great. I mean, it's a Canadian history, the heritage company, and I think it's great if it can stay alive.
As long as it lives on, that'll be a bit of a plus for sure. And Canada Tire is good too, a big company.
A court still needs to approve the deal, which wouldn't close until later this year. It's not known if money raised from the agreement will flow to workers fighting for severance pay. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's the biggest international music competition in the world. Eurovision had its semi-finals air earlier this week, with the big finale set for Saturday in Switzerland. The contest includes European countries, but also nations such as Australia. And that got us wondering, could Canada also take part in this competition? Magda Gebrselassie has the story.
Fiery performances, elaborate sets, and a sea of fans and flags. Eurovision 2025 shines with 37 countries from Europe and beyond, battling it out with original songs.
It is literally the Hunger Games of music. It's wild.
Canadian Laurel Barker has been in the thick of it several times. In 2019, she wrote 3 songs for the UK, Germany, and Switzerland that made it into the final. And while she's thrilled to lend her talent to other nations, she also wishes Canada would compete.
Eurovision really is this warm, fuzzy love fest, celebration of people from all cultures, all walks of life, all orientations, and I really believe that Canada represents all of that.
Several Canadians have represented other countries. Most famously, Celine Dion took home the win for Switzerland in 1988.
If we're good enough to sing and win for another country, why aren't we making the effort to field our own act?
There could be a way. Australia competes because 10 years ago, its public broadcaster was invited to participate. The European Broadcasting Union, which coordinates the song contest, says it's up to CBC to express interest, and that the CBC is the only Canadian broadcaster that could hypothetically hope to participate in the Eurovision Song Contest. Previously, an outside production company pitched a show to CBC to pick a Eurovision contestant for Canada, but CBC passed on the idea, saying it is prohibitively expensive. Meanwhile, Canadian fans are getting in on the action in other ways.
My passion led me to attending 2 Eurovisions in a row.
For now, Ariana Vink will keep rooting for her favorites, like Sweden, to take the win on Saturday.
I'd love to see us in it one day.
Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, if you don't have weekend plans, there's something to do on Saturday with that finale there. Some much needed rain, as we've been saying, probably putting a damper on some people's long weekend plans. Yeah. That's okay. We need it.
Yes, we definitely need the rain. So we'll take it for everyone else with the cooler temperatures as well. I mean, by the time we get to Sunday, Monday, things do start to warm up a little bit, but at least tomorrow, more of a sweater day out there. I want to talk about some of the severe weather that we saw moving through the province yesterday. We did see some severe thunderstorm watches and warnings, and Environment Canada investigating the possibility of up to 3 tornadoes touching down in the province through the late afternoon into the evening hours on Thursday. They have confirmed that tornadoes touched down at both Sperling and Niverville on Thursday. However, they haven't rated them yet. That is still under investigation. They aren't able to confirm if one did in fact touch down in Gretna. They are actively seeking any photos or videos to confirm whether or not that did happen. But yeah, certainly out of some of those stray thunderstorms that we saw rolling across southern Manitoba yesterday, some active weather in there. So it's that time of year when the weather goes through these changes, these hot and cold spells that we've seen. So just keep that in mind as you're planning your weekend here. A look at temperatures. Temperatures have been actively falling throughout the day, really across southern Manitoba, down to 4 degrees in Winnipeg this hour, 3s in Portage la Prairie and Morden, 3 in Brandon as well, 5 in Dauphin and 3 in Thompson, even some minuses on the board there as well. This sets us up for what will be a chilly evening below seasonal with still some rain falling through Winnipeg and into the eastern part of the province and into northwestern Ontario. That does taper off as we get through the night into the morning hours. But temperatures falling to close to the freezing mark, +1 in both Brandon and Winnipeg, but on the freezing mark in both Steinbach and Sprague, as well as in Peguis, where we could see some of that rain mixing into the potential for some flurries even as we get into the early morning hours. 0 in Flin Flon, -2 in Thompson, -4 in Churchill. Into the afternoon, into the single digits by the afternoon, a cloudy start, but once we get into the afternoon, we'll start to get some breaks in that cloud as a ridge of high pressure starts to set in, and that is going to help to clear us out for the remainder of the weekend, allowing temperatures to get up to 8s and 9s in northwestern Manitoba. A couple of double digits, a few of them on the map here for southwestern Manitoba. This is where we see some clearing early in the day, but as we see the rest of that system pushing out into the afternoon hours, we'll get some clearing in behind that. By late afternoon, I think in the Red River Valley, we'll likely see a little bit of clearing at 6 degrees for Saturday. Into Sunday, back into the double digits, 13s and 14s for many locations across the southern part of the province at least, and into Monday we'll add a few more degrees onto there. 17 for Portage, 16 in Winnipeg. Brittany, I'll have your 7-day forecast when I come back.
All right, thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
The Winnipeg Jets are off to Game 6, staving off elimination with a shutout last night at home to avoid elimination. The rain didn't stop fans from celebrating. Gavin Axelrod was there.
These fans weren't going to let a little bit of rain wash away their party Thursday night. And the Winnipeg Jets sent them home happy with a 4-0 win to keep their season alive and force another game.
We already know we're dedicated fans, and this just pulls it to another high for the Jets fans. And yeah, this is awesome.
Crazy. People are enjoying themselves. They're out here, and I would suspect that when we were walking here, no one would be here. We pulled up, it's packed. Yeah, it's amazing, honestly.
The rain, the cold, you know, this is what brings us closer together as a city, as a community, and we love it. It builds character. It brings Winnipeg together.
That support doesn't go unnoticed.
We got a lot of work ahead of us here in Game 6, but to reward our fans and for them to get behind us and give them a chance to see another game, that's what we were looking to do.
And on the ice, Connor Hellebuck was dominant Thursday, stopping every shot he faced for a second straight shutout at home in this series. The uphill climb continues for Winnipeg. They'll need to win on the road to stay alive, something they haven't done yet this postseason. But fans believe.
And I know we're going to get it. We're all here. Back to back to back.
They want to see their team back on home ice for a winner-take-all Game 7. But before that, they'll have to win in Dallas Saturday. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A street in downtown Winnipeg has been given an honorary name in memory of the team's Sea Bears team's captain, Chad Posthumus. The section of Donald Street next to the Canada Life Centre has been given the commemorative name Honorary Chad Posthumous Way. The 33-year-old was the first player signed to the Winnipeg Sea Bears. He suffered a brain aneurysm last November, but was left in critical care after surgery. He died less than 2 weeks later. His brother, Jesse, spoke for the family.
The current Donald Street, running through the centre of Winnipeg, acts as a major artery to the beating heart of our sports teams. Now that artery will grow stronger, as Donald will beautifully share with Chad, allowing his legacy to stand in front of the Canada Life Centre and his spirit to help guide our Sea Bears and our Jets to victory.
Posthumous's jersey and number will be retired and will hang from the rafters of the arena. Still ahead, it's a site that attracts many visitors to southwestern Argentina. We'll show you what all the hype is about just ahead. And of course, Riley is back with a last check on our forecast. Stay with us. Okay, here are a couple things to keep in mind as we head into the long weekend. There are a number of fire bans and restrictions in place. Check the province's website or your municipality if you have to do any burning. But the province is discouraging campfires, bonfires, and fireworks, even if there is no burn ban in your area. Full campfire bans are also being implemented in all eastern and central regional provincial parks. Both inside and outside of provincial parks, a full fire ban and backcountry travel restrictions are in place as of today in the southeast. And a reminder that all access to Whiteshell Provincial Park is restricted. Nopaming Provincial Park is also closed. Manitobans who need to connect with wildfire resources can call 211.
All right, and we're still seeing rain falling across eastern and southeastern Manitoba into the Red River Valley as well. Rain is a good thing. We'll take what we can get, particularly east of the city into northwestern Ontario. The Ingall fire here probably not getting nearly as much rain as we need for some of those larger fires that are burning. That just gives you a sense of where the rain is falling right now. Cool one tomorrow, 6 degrees in Winnipeg, north winds 30 gusting to 50. We'll start to see those lightening off as we get into the afternoon hours, and then we'll start to get our temperatures back closer to seasonal. So Monday 16, Tuesday 17 degrees. Our next best chance of some precipitation at this point looks like it's coming on Wednesday with a high of 18 degrees, and then we're back into the 20s for Thursday and Friday of next week. Well, it is a site that attracts many visitors to southwestern Argentina.
It starts with a deep cracking sound. Here's your daily lift. That's a massive block of ice as tall as a 20-story building collapsing from the edge of the famous Perito Moreno Glacier. Well, this process called calving isn't new. Glacier experts are seeing a worrying trend.
They're noticing bigger ice columns breaking off and more frequently, and the glacier is getting smaller without rebounding back to its size during the winter. Research shows glaciers around the world have been melting faster than ever due to global warming. But what a sight that is to see.
They are incredible. They're massive.
Very massive. 20-story building. That is something.
No icebergs here.
No.
But we do want to wish you all a very happy long weekend, and we hope that everybody stays safe out there with those fires. Wishing you all the best. We'll see you back here next week.
See you on Monday.
Great weekend.